Welcome to episode 84 of the No Stroke podcast. This episode is brought to you by Drip Sauna, Connecticut's soon to be number one mobile dry sauna and cold plunge experience. And I'm blessed to be here with the co-founder and co-host of the No Stroke podcast, Mike Garrow. Hi, Mike.
I love a bit of free advertisement, David. Yeah, we're excited. Got our first event this weekend, so yeah, everybody go check out our Instagram, Drip Sauna, DRYYP Sauna.
All right, and that'll be the motivation to get this one out before the 26th. It's an event in New Haven, right? Okay. All right. So head over to Mike and Meg's site at Drip Sauna, and all that information's in the show notes. But let's jump in, Mike. On this one, I hope you don't mind. I just wanted to maybe just set the stage briefly. We're going to have a great guest, Gary Viles, founder of Neuro Rehab Recovery, and to set the stage to kind of define the problem for this episode, I just want to share, because I never know if I shared this with you previously. Back one of the last times I was at the American Heart and Stroke Association conference, I was in the exhibit hall and I had the opportunity to try on the Tibium bionic leg. It was a great product, an early stage exoskeleton. And when it came down, and I was just reopening my practice at the time, and I wanted to do different things and bring in technology. And when it came down to, I tried it on, was sold on what it could do as a patient, but also to free up the hands of a provider, and found out at the time when it got down to what it would cost to bring it into clinic, it was presented me in terms of lease payments that were about a few $100s more than my mortgage at the time. So that left me out of the game as far as a treating clinician that could bring these technologies to patients. So in sort of a small world, I was introduced to today's guest via another physical therapist, Sarah Rotundo, who's also a neuro expert, and I had done some work with her with WalkAid, and she said, you got to speak to Gary. She's a follower of our show, listens to our show, and said, Gary would be a great guest, because she knew we talked about these themes of technology and access and what they can do for patients. And that's kind of to set the stage. But then, Mike, I don't know, I know you commented that we saw something come up between recording and then that Gary had posted. Do you want to just mention that? Because I think it just resonates with both of us this afternoon.
Yeah. So, for those of you who are listening, you could go to the show notes, check out Gary's LinkedIn. We'll make the post there. But he shared that, he was a recent, Ozzy Osbourne was a recent patient of his. And he spent some time getting him back up on his feet, and actually did get him to perform, right? One of his last shows, who, as of today, recording this on July 23rd, it was announced yesterday that Ozzy Osbourne unfortunately had passed away. But yeah, just really touching kind of sentiment from Gary, who spent, what seems like a good amount of time with him in his home, and, kind of really getting him through the devices that, we'll talk about today, back to the ability to perform one last time. So it was a pretty special tribute that Gary shared. And I think it's maybe not everybody an Ozzy Osbourne fan listening to this, but hey, it just shows, with reps and, to kind of train that mentality to train like an athlete, how he was able to get back there and perform one last time.
Yeah. And if you're not an Ozzy fan, you may not know that he suffered with Parkinson's disease too. So it limited his mobility, but with Gary's help and a supportive team, they were able to get him for that farewell tour with Black Sabbath. And he, in Gary's post, he mentions Ozzy and his family did a lot of good things around children's initiatives and also pets. And it was a lot of causes he was involved with that you don't realize that, someone who was always portrayed as a rocker and on the edge. But it just goes to show, Gary's the leading expert in this field of neurotechnology, and you'll hear him describe the companies that he's been involved with on progressing the technology with exoskeletons and neurotechnologies, names like, Medtronic, J&J, Innovative Neurotronics, via, the walk aid, as I mentioned, with my connection with Sarah. But I just really feel it was fitting that we get this one out, not only to promote your event, but the timing on this, just to, I know Gary would want to pay tribute to Ozzy as well as we do.
Yeah. And I think one other thing, it's like, yes, Ozzy Osbourne was the one being able to, cost probably wasn't a thing to him, right? For the devices he was using, as one thing that really stuck out in our interview here was how Gary is focused on the accessibility of these devices, right? And from a financial perspective, right, trying to lower the costs as much as possible, and kind of offering some flexibility in terms of lease and trial programs, both for clinic and private home use. So I think that's one big thing that stuck out to me through this conversation is, yes, there's always, that exoskeleton that you tried, in the booth that was, half a mortgage payment. But, I think what he's trying to do is really bring this to a cost that is accessible for everyone.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's a perfect, segue into introducing him, but also that, one thing that stood out, and, we asked him to kind of shine a light on some of the folks that were sort of, that he would, want to share. And like, it was folks in third world countries, it was folks over here, everyday folks that just gaining access to technology saw that how much it could change the trajectory of their recovery. Because as he says, the challenge of neuro in recovery is hard, and that's what makes it so rewarding when you do have those wins. So I think everyone's going to really enjoy this episode. And just a quick call to action before we open up. If we're looking for, then the other thing that stuck out in the news, there was a FDA kind of gave Whoop, who we talk about neurotech in this episode, but they gave Whoop kind of a hand slapping regarding their blood pressure measurement. So we're kind of looking for an FDA medical device expert going through the onboarding process, because I'd like to dive deeper into that, and maybe it's someone from Whoop themselves, or maybe it's another FDA person who follows the show and might want to comment about that. But maybe we can save that for just a call to action and talk about it on another episode. Unless you have anything to add there, Mike.
No, I think, that would be an interesting topic. And just like the different regulatory processes, right? Because their hand slap was specifically for the blood pressure measurement, right? But like, a lot of companies, and one that was actually in the news yesterday, a past guest, Mark Powell from Reach Neuro. So, I mean, when we were talking with him, he was going through the FDA fast track process, right? To get approval. And, there's so many different classifications, I'm sure, of FDA approval, right? Depending on what you're trying to measure. But I think a specific, convo around this, the Whoop hand slap would be interesting. But Mark Powell, he was selected for it's a new accelerator program out of the American Stroke Association, focused on brain innovation and women's health specifically. It's kind of a collaboration between AHA's new venture program, as well as the Center for Innovation and Technology. I forget exactly what it stands for, or what the term is, but another past guest that we had on from that, what was his name? Patrick Dunn.
Okay.
That's it. All right. We finally got to it.
No, that's all right.
All right. But exciting for Reach Neuro. There's a handful of other, companies on that list that are driving some meaningful change. So it'd be cool to kind of see how that accelerator program, pans out, and what they do to actually start integrating this stuff into practice, right? Because I think that's the power of the AHA, is with some of the connections they have within hospital systems, universities, right? Is to be able to really make those connections that might be difficult for early stage startups, getting in.
Absolutely.
So let's dive into this one. Again, episode what? 84?
84. Gary 84. Gary Viles from Neuro Rehab Recovery.
100's on the horizon, David. I could see it.
All right, we can do it. All right,
Enjoy
good.
this one.
Gary, welcome to the No Stroke Podcast. Pleasure to have you on this evening.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We kind of, Mike and I, in the intro, I kind of shared a little bit with our audience about this topic. It's one that Mike and I have been passionate about and had conversations with different innovators in the past on the show. And it's one that I know you're the expert. So I want to share with our audience the work that you've been doing. We were introduced by another physical therapist, and she said you got to meet up and talk with Gary, and we had a bit of a discovery call and shared some common passions. But I'd love for you to share with our audience sort of, what is your background? What inspired you to venture into this field of rehab technology?
You know, it's an interesting journey. My academic background is as a physiologist. I've always enjoyed the study of the human body. My entire career has been in healthcare. So early on, I was exposed to rehabilitation medicine. And for a while, I was a hospital administrator. I owned my own rehab center for a number of years. And then I switched into neurotech. I've always enjoyed technology, and I've always enjoyed helping those with neurological injuries or disease. Is just such a challenge and a reward to helping those people in need. So for the last 27 years, I've been involved in neurological technology. And I've worked for some large companies like Medtronic Neurological and Johnson and Johnson Neuromodulation. And then for a few years, I was working with Bioness, working with their electrical stimulation technologies. And then for 11 years, I was with Innovative Neurotronics, and ended up being the managing director of that company. We launched multiple technologies like the Walk Aid, the Rewalk, the G Walk, a few different technologies. So I was exposed to a lot of different aspects of neurological technology, whether it be product development or manufacturing or the regulatory processes. But most important, I was exposed to making a difference in a patient's life. So along that time, I had this vision of creating a company that would offer multiple clinical solutions to both clinicians and patients, that would be an access for education, an access for innovative technologies, an access for what the future trends are looking at. And so I created a company called Neuro Rehab Recovery. And our mission is to be a developer, a distributor, and education company for neurotech. And it's been a great journey, and here we are.
Nice. Well, David and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us and, share more, about what you're doing with the audience. And I think, one thing that kind of stuck out there is you mentioned your mission there, right? It really emphasizes, really distributing these innovative products, right, that, people are in dire need of, and making those affordable for folks that are
Mhm.
driven around clinical evidence. So, talk to us, it's a challenge, right? But, how do you go about ensuring these values are really upheld in your operations today?
Well, we're owned and operated by clinicians, and we're very patient focused.
Yes.
So we do not take adding a product to our portfolio or developing a product lightly. It has to achieve a number of check marks, if you will. And first and foremost, it has to be safe and it has to be efficacious. Okay. But then the next three most important buckets for us is ease of use, durability, and affordability. And it's a balance when you're developing a product that, you want to develop a product that provides a solution, but you need to develop a product that does not offer so many features and complexities that it's difficult to use for either a patient or a clinician. And sometimes the engineers or the clinicians, they go too far with it, and sometimes simple is better. And that goes for affordability. I have an FES system that I could turn on and off all the different electrodes separately. But if I do that, then it's going to increase its complexity, it's going to increase its risk of malfunction, and it's going to increase its cost. So instead, let's not make it that complex, keep the cost low, and that's how I do it. We make these decisions together as part of my clinical team. I have a whole group of neuro-trained physical therapists that try these technologies out. They try them on themselves. They try them on patients, and we get together and we make these decisions together on if we're going to add it to our product portfolio or not.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I want to just dive a little deeper on, Gary, in terms of like having the clinician's viewpoint, because when it comes time to understanding the clinic workflow, if there's too many like bells and whistles, if you will, or there's too many ways to get that thing going within the confines of an episode, like if it takes 10 minutes to set up and you're billing by 15-minute treatment codes and windows like that, it's hard to justify how you want to see this adopted in the clinic. And in the cases that I've been involved with, when I see that light bulb come on and I see how powerful these tech tools are to augment care delivery and just add to the clinician's toolbox, like that's a big barrier and a big thing that what I'm hearing with your companies, that you really early on have the clinician's perspective top of mind, and they're going to be the ones that are training and helping get buy-in for not only the clinic but for the patient to be able to say, look, this is working, and I can do this, whether it be here with you or if it gets carried over into the home, it's not too complex. So what are some of the other barriers? We had a discovery call before, and you really, I should have taken better notes, honestly, because I jotted them down quick, but I know some of it is like tech literacy. And what were some of the others?
Well, and that's a great segue, because and I will mention, it's not just clinician input, it's also patient input, because these patients, they give us a lot of input. Because let's face it, and this is going to segue into an answer to what you just asked. These people, when they're discharged from physical therapy and they go home, they still need access to these technologies to continue their recovery journey. So when I see technology and I'm evaluating technology, I look at access points and I look, okay, what are the obstacles to having a technology be successful? Well, one of them is poor clinic adoption. All right. So if you've got clinicians that are they're set in their treatment protocols, they're set in how they treat a particular diagnosis, you need to show them that, okay, there could be a better way, and this technology might provide a better solution for you. So we need to educate some of these clinicians that it's okay to change up your treatment protocol with a better solution, as long as we can show you why it's better. So clinic adoption is one thing, and when we talk about something as simple as foot drop, we have some clinicians will just say, okay, here, take this brace, take this ankle foot orthosis home, and you'll be safe, and there's some truth to that. But there are other technologies that also will treat foot drop, that use functional electrical stimulation, that have significant physiological benefits to it. So it's not, we sometimes have to change the paradigm with some of these clinicians. So that's one. Two is poor clinical outcomes. So if you have a device that is too complex to program, and the clinician, is struggling to program it in a very short window of time, like you said, because they've got maybe 45 minutes with a patient, they're going to struggle. They're going to have a poor clinical outcome. They're going to get frustrated. The patient's going to get frustrated. So we need to provide excellent clinical training so that these clinicians can quickly become experts with the technology, and with a technology that's easy to use and can be, implemented very quickly in a treatment session. So that's 2. 3 is affordability and reimbursement environment. If you've got a technology that's fantastic, but for a clinic it's going to cost $200,000, or for a patient it's going to cost $10,000. Whatever those pain points are for pricing, it's going to limit access. So we need to have technologies that I mentioned earlier. They're innovative, they're effective, but they still have to be affordable. We have to keep these clinic units below 10,000. We have to keep patient units below 3,000, so that it's at least within a ballpark of them being able to access it. The last one might be the biggest. The last one is patient accountability and motivation. These people that have had neurological injuries or disease, they're going through a lot of, social, financial, psychological stress. And, it's easy for them to get overwhelmed or get depressed, or just, say, what, I had a stroke. I think I just need to accept it. I'm going to sit on this couch and watch Netflix, and there it is. We need to do a better job educating these patients, motivating these patients that, look, there is another way. And yes, you can have access to this technology. And that's what Neuro Rehab Recovery is trying to do, is, do a better job with financing and making prices low, and doing remote or virtual trainings, so that they don't always have to go to a clinic to get programmed with the technology. We're just enhancing access. And those are the 4 major points, I think.
Yeah, those are all super important, especially like you're saying, that last one, right? Right. How do we get this as easy as possible for clinicians to be able to administer, and they're already swamped with time, right? And then patients are so overwhelmed, right? It's a tough medium to try to divide there. But let's talk about, some of these technologies then, right? So I mean, you mentioned foot drop, and the plethora of different options out there. I also saw you guys have a exoskeleton. I saw the video of you stomping around the at one of the events that you're at. So super exciting stuff here. So let's maybe go through a few in your portfolio. Highlight the technology, and explain how they could be aided for patient recovery.
Absolutely. And thank you for asking. And, our goal is to provide solutions, essentially, from the head to the ankle, because unfortunately, neurological injuries and or progressive diseases, they affect, everything from the eyes to capability of swallowing, communication, motor movements, etc. So far, we have technologies that affect mostly motor movements, that also have physiological impact, whether it be cardiac or respiratory, or assisting with digestion or bowel and bladder, what have you. We're going to be adding other technologies for swallowing, for virtual reality, for balance and things such as that. One of the technologies we have now is called the G4, and the G4 is a very easy to use functional electrical stimulation technology for foot drop. And this system works on inclinometer or tilt sensor and accelerometer technology. And it also has integrated medical grade stainless steel electrodes. So why is that important? Well, you add that together along with some AI and some smart algorithms, and this technology has the capability of essentially programming itself with very little maintenance. So you don't have monthly costs of disposable electrodes. You essentially put it on your leg, positioned correctly. We're stimulating the common peroneal nerve. They turn it on, turn it up, get a nice motor response, and go for a walk. So that's been very well accepted in both the clinical world and the with patients. And again, because of its affordability, we've really kept the price point low on the G4. Another technology that we're developing ourselves is part of our own intellectual property, and we're excited to launch. We're going to launch this in August. Is called the Journey Frame, and the Journey Frame is a modular bodyweight support system. And again, there are some bodyweight support systems out there that are very good, but they're also very expensive, and they're big, they're bulky. So we've created a very lightweight and modular bodyweight support system that comes apart and snaps together, kind of like tent poles, if you will. So you can take this apart in less than a minute, put it in a carrying case, put it in the trunk of your car, go to the park, has indoor, outdoor rubberized wheels, assemble it there, and take your loved one that has leg weakness or gait compensations that does not allow them to walk safely, and now they can walk safely. And this system, will hold upwards of 400 pounds. So we're creating solutions like that. You mentioned the exoskeletons. We represent Cosmo Robotics and the Exoatlet exoskeleton, and we have the EA2, which is the adult exoskeleton. And then we have the Bambini, and we're very excited about the Bambini because that's the first overground, independent or frameless pediatric exoskeleton. And we're actually doing a clinical trial at Kessler Foundation in New Jersey, and are in hopes of submitting for FDA clearance for that technology early in 2026. So we'll get some of the little ones walking around. So we don't forget the kids. Our technologies, we have adult, but we also have pediatric. Like we have pneumatic gloves for hand rehab for both adults and pediatric. We have rehab cycles. We represent the Motomed line out of Germany, again for both adult and pediatrics. So we have a good line.
Yeah, it's like a PT's toolbox there. Like I get
Yes.
excited when and I'm glad
Yes.
you brought up the Journey Frame because um, I'm recording up here, but in my studio downstairs, I don't know on our call if you noticed in the back, but I think I mentioned to you, that was a need that I needed to fulfill as a stroke survivor. When I was transitioning from walking kind of fast to wanting to run again, I needed that safety, and I hacked my own. I did a DIY system
Sure.
that I built. And when I saw your Journey Frame and your demoing and how you can pop it together, I'm like, wow, this is going to open up so many more possibilities, not only for the families at home, but like for example, the home care physio that might want to
Yes.
do more and have that safety net, but be able to really do more functional movements and activities, and as part of that enable them to do dual tasking and things that, by freeing up a hand, they can get to that next level of rehab, and that whole pathway can change dramatically. So that excited me. And just quickly to the G4. And again, my experience was limited with previously the walking, and I believe, great device. The little subtle difference that you mentioned, and I think maybe it goes into cost and affordability. With your G4, is there no need to change out and have regular supply of electrodes? It's built in?
Yeah, exactly. It's integrated and built in, and I, that again, it goes back to ease of use. So you don't have that monthly cost.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about electrode placement. Which could be for someone that may be cognitively impaired, could be an issue. And uh, we've also found using the stainless steel electrodes, we've had a very low risk of skin irritation, because when you do use gel electrodes and you're wearing something like that all day long, there is a risk of skin irritation. And knock on wood, we've had very low risk
Yeah.
with the G4. Yeah.
And that, to describing what makes your system having the clinicians be able to do some of this virtual and onboarding, if you not have to be like moving around electrodes to get them like that, just that alone, not only the cost, but just being able to actually visualize that placement with the G4 and say, you're good. We're going to run it through a test, and we can do all that remote. So that's really, I'm getting excited.
Well, thank you. And you're right, because if you have a technology that you can train patients and clinicians remotely, that helps keep the cost down. It's
Yep.
if you're having to have a huge sales and clinical support team, and they're having to travel all over the place, that's going to affect cost, of course. Yeah. And the journey frame you mentioned, when we're talking about clinical evidence, stroke rehab, we talk about high intensity gait training. And we need to treat some of these people like athletes. We need to push them. And when they're discharged to home, you've got a caregiver there that looks at me and says, Gary, I'm scared. I can't hold him. I can't hold my husband up, or I can't push him to get his heart rate up. We just can't do it. Well, something like the journey frame would allow that loved one to do that and still keep them, safe from falls.
Yeah. Having that confidence as a caregiver is, it's just that reassurance there to say, hey, all right, like I now feel safe, because it's like as new for the patient of, a journey as it is for the caregiver, right? And they're
It is.
in it together. You mentioned there, we were talking around the ability to do a lot of this stuff remotely, kind of reducing the costs. I also saw you guys offer like loaner programs on some of the equipment as well, just like a trial period. Do you see success with that kind of just as a lower cost to entry, help them, kind of see the device, try it on, and then convert over? How's that program been going for you?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. We do that both for clinics and patients, because for clinics, we're like, look, you just need to try this. You will see its value. And if cost is an issue, just try it. And so we'll train them, get them onboarded, and then they use it for 2 or 3 months. And look, then you make a decision. There's no pressure from us. And the same with patients. Again, I'll use the G4 as an example, but we do this with multiple technologies. We'll send them home with a device. Of course, this is an FDA class 2 technology, so we have to get a prescription and onboard them, and then we charge them a very low fee, which essentially is the rental of the unit and the time of the clinical specialist, the physical therapist, to train them. So we send the patient home with a G4, and they use it 2 or 3 weeks to essentially answer 2 questions. One, can I be compliant with it? Can I use it, feel comfortable with it, knowing that, yes, okay, I can use this day in and day out, and it's not going to be burdensome to me? And two, is it making the difference in my life I was looking for? Can I walk in the mall with my loved one now? Can I go to my grandchild's ball game? Is it making a difference? And none of these technologies are instant cures. They take time, but at least if they have it 2 or 3 weeks, they can make those decisions and not have to purchase something that, where they walk down the hallway for 30 seconds and I was like, okay, do you want to buy it?
Yeah. That's something that is, I think, really critical. And it used to be years ago, Gary, that when I saw these great technologies where they came back from conference or whatever, and I know my patient with MS could probably benefit, but I knew that might have been a cost barrier or just that ability to actually arrange for a clinician to come in to meet the other clinic, try to time it so that it's during their appointment and hope everyone shows up on time, and then not feel forced to feel like you gave them the best opportunity. And so that trial and the virtual component, just that eliminates those barriers. So I want to just add or ask you, with your ability to get these out in spread the word that, this isn't the neurotech of 15, 20 years ago, that it's now in reach. And you're doing a great job making it as affordable as you, lowering a lot of the bars to be able to make that happen. Where do you feel that wearables and monitoring changes with these tools come in? Because you mentioned it, like one of the barriers, point four, was accountability and motivation, and it can be easy to just, like you said, like check out. That stroke survivor that said, this is it, this is the cards I've been dealt. I'm gonna spend more time on the couch than trying to make it out to the, you know to a ball game, or go back to the daily things that you used to enjoy. So if you provide these tech tools, and then, using the G4, the foot's not dropping as much, they're less of a fall risk. They might need the journey frame. All of a sudden they're going from, you know, 200 or 1,000 daily steps to 5,000. Do you feel like how important it is to be able to document change over time, like from the reimbursement side? Is that weighing into kind of the future development of the products as you build in, or is it already there?
Well, it's getting there. It needs to improve, but it is vital. It's vital in a few different ways. It's vital for feedback to the patient. To me, the most important thing is the feedback to the patient, that, oh wow, look at what I did, and oh wow, I'm feeling better, and look at my heart rate, look at my O2 sat, look at my blood pressure, look at my steps, look at my sleep, my REM sleep. So wearables, I think, can help to motivate patients. Wearables will also give data to clinicians to create better practice guidelines, clinical practice guidelines, and treatment protocols, and fine tune those protocols to be more efficacious. And that leads into research, and so we continue to do research and add wearables as part of the parameters of doing research. And then compliance and usage. So payers, they're going to want to say, okay, if we're going to buy this technology for a patient, are they using it? Is it making a difference, or is it collecting dust somewhere on a shelf? So yeah, we're going to see, and we're already starting to see this, um, incredible advancements in prosthetics and smart prosthetics. And we're seeing that with everything from Neuralink to looking at how brain computer interfaces can actually control motor movements using technology. So it's the future is just beginning to and it will accelerate very fast, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, and especially with exoskeletons along with wearables. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely some exciting technology on the cusp here. And I think, as you were going back and you're chatting around reimbursement and some of the things, insurers really need to see here. Excuse me. Um, I think one of those things, as well as you're designing, products for folks, is around accessibility, right? Talk to us around, how you ensure these devices are accessible for, someone with spasticity to be able, and left arm spasticity, trying to strap on, the G4, and obviously the caregiver could play a big role into that. But how are you designing these products with that in mind for the neuro patients that are using the products?
So listen to the patients. What are the patients really telling you? What is their need? Listen to the clinicians. All right, what are they telling you? As well, I see 12 patients a day. I have 45 minutes with patients. Some of them I'm only going to see for 15 visits and they get discharged. The clinicians need help utilizing technologies that they can use quickly and that they can see some level of impact on their clinical outcome in a short period of time, but also in that continuum of care from inpatient to outpatient to home, they need technologies that can transition from inpatient to outpatient to home. Okay. So, I love engineers. I work with engineers every day, but engineers without clinical input, will go off and build this beautiful solution and show it to the clinicians, and the clinicians like, well, we don't need that, and so it has to be integrated to make sure that we're really solving a problem statement, and that has value to someone with a neurological injury or disease, and that's it. So back to clinical input and stay patient focused.
I was laughing out loud as you were describing that because I was in a consulting role at university and I was the only clinician in the lab of 5 engineers. And that's
Yeah,
exactly what happened. I said, well, do you understand the clinic workflow? That's a waste of time. That particular feature that
yeah,
you guys are spent the last 2 weeks on is never going to get out of lab. So
yeah.
I appreciate hearing that. Um, can you give, like, it doesn't have to be specific to stroke, but you've been doing this and seeing the light bulb come on for patients for a long time, and I see you get excited about what the future looks like. But are there any, like, a story or two of a patient success story that really kind of provided another spark for you to continue what you're doing?
Wow, that's a tough one. I so many. I I'm blessed that myself, my friends, colleagues, my company, we've touched the lives of so many. It's what gets me up in the morning. Um, I remember this young girl. She was like 9 years old, and she had cerebral palsy, and she was in a severe crouch gait position, and we put bilateral electrical stimulation systems on her, for foot drop, and we did some additional bracing with her at the knee and the hip, and she was scheduled to go into surgery for tendon lengthening procedures, but we said, well, let's give this some time, and I can tell you that it's hard to picture it, but from her crouch position, after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, this girl was literally almost standing straight. 9 months later with no surgery, and that's a long term outcome. I remember this man. He was about late 30s and had had an AVM stroke, and severe foot drop. I mean, it was painful to watch him try to walk without a brace, and we put an FES system on him. The very first step he took, it was like he was walking normally again. Saw a grown man cry, and when I earlier tonight, I programmed a G4 for a patient, and the caregiver, the husband, was there, and he was watching his wife walk, and he looked at me. He's like, Gary, I cannot believe this. I mean, she's walking normal. And so it's those stories. And look, I always tell physical therapists their most important technology is here and here. All right. Their brain in their hands. But technology is another one of those spokes on the wheel. We have to involve speech, PT, OT, neuropsych, physiatry, of course pharmacological treatments. All of this. We're treating together as those spokes on the wheel. But technology is one of those.
That's well said, right? The mind and the hands, right? And then the technologies, like, David mentioned it, arsenal in the toolbox for you, to be able to use. But yeah, that's why, you guys do what you do, and people are blessed to be able to have the brilliant therapists that are out there. And it just trying to get more of them into this field as well. I feel like it's a dying, unfortunately it's a dying breed. And I think like, we see so many of these greats, doing amazing work, but it's a tough field. And I think, we could have a whole separate podcast of like the
Yes,
reimbursement landscape
yes.
and just how challenging so much of that is, which, is pushing folks away. But I think it's the conversations like this and, just with the different paths and the opportunities that are here right now, but also in the future are exciting. So let's talk a little bit more about your goals, right? Thinking about the future. How do you see your role, in the neuro rehab recovery? How do you see, the company shaping over the next 5 years and maybe some of the product lines or technologies you're looking at?
Great question. I want I always want us to stay true to our values and true to our company culture. Stay, patient focused. Always keep affordability and accessibility in mind. That will never change. Uh, what do I see? I see that as I prove this concept, and I was just at the American Physical Therapy Association conference in Houston, and I exhibit there every year, and they walk by our booth, and they're like, "Wow, this is like a toy store for therapists." And I said, "Well, that's kind of the vision." I want to be a one-stop solution for, as I said, technology, education, and accessibility. Um, so we'll see our product portfolio grow, but very strategically. I mentioned I'm going to add some VR, some dysphagia technology, and some of our own IP. We have a couple other technologies we're going to build out that I'm very excited about. Uh, when you have your own IP, you can have even more control on the design features, on the cost, on the regulatory environment, all of that. And and you're going to see innovation change. I do a lot of public speaking on future trends in technology, future trends in exoskeletons. I've been involved in multiple exoskeleton launches, Rewalk, Kyogo, Wandercraft, Bambini, a few different exoskeletons, and these technologies are good, but they need to improve. Okay, we need to get these exoskeletons at a point when a patient wakes up in the morning that they look at their wheelchair and they look at their exoskeleton and they say, you know what, I'm going to use the exoskeleton today. So we need to continue to enhance the functionality and the wearability and the clinical impact of these exoskeletons, and that's going to take some time. So my company, we're going to expand portfolio. We're going to develop some of our own IP, but we're going to keep our culture consistent, and we're going to grow.
I think just to add to that point, I've been a PT for a long time, and it hasn't been within probably the last 6 months. And I don't know if you've seen this at APTA conference. There is now this convergence of, we're fighting burnout, we're fighting, a lot of issues, reimbursement being a big one. But one of the things I'm seeing within the last several months is partnerships that are building in, the ambient listening to make charting a little easier in the AI component to be able to maybe, it's one of my wish list items, I guess, to see the clinician's time freed up so they can turn around from their computer and or free up time to learn more about adopting and fitting and setting patients up and being able to actually bring rehab home. It's been a calling card for Mike and I since we started this podcast that we need to see beyond the episode of care and that rehab cliff we've talked about, especially in stroke, that you do a great job stabilizing them, getting them safe to go home, and then boom, door shut, and good luck finding tools that you can continue to use. So I'm somewhat hopeful that maybe AI. I know it's like, it sounds like it's definitely gonna improve the way exoskeletons learn. And I don't know if we'll get to, maybe I watched too much Tony Stark and Marvel a while back, but I don't think we're going to get to the to the complete, a Jarvis moment where we can just talk and that suit's going to get up and you're going to jump in it. But I think AI is going to really help to lower costs, bring more access, and free up time for therapists. And I guess that's my big wish.
Well, could you imagine? I know I love to think outside the box, but can you imagine, a therapist wearing, Google glasses that automatically videotape their patients during treatment, their patient wearing wearable that automatically took their data. So, and all that data would automatically go into an EMR system, so that it would free up time of the therapist. You'd have all that documentation. Of course, we have to work around HIPAA and all of that, but there's better ways we could use technology to chart and to show functional change, and be able to do that with lessening the burden on the therapist. Yes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, exoskeletons, keep an eye out for the future of exoskeletons. And I mentioned I worked with Wandercraft some. This company is really doing fantastic things with AI, and they're
And
the first.
sorry to cut in on that. Sorry, just so I just wanted to make sure I don't lose this thought. Like,
Yeah.
what is the future of exoskeleton? Is it to like what's the focus of it? Is it to make it less obtrusive, like so you're not wearing this thing that like is the goal one day to make it where people might not even know you're wearing it or using an exoskeleton suit? Like,
Right.
is that where the
Well,
technology is going, or where's the technology going?
and that's a whole different podcast, and because
Yeah,
I do a lot of talks on that.
yeah,
But yeah, it depends if we're talking about general leg weakness,
yeah,
or if we're talking about a low level lesion, or
yeah.
if we're talking about a high level lesion. All right,
Mm,
so we're talking about different patient populations. But for high level lesion, I mean, you need to work on self balancing systems. You can't use crutches, so you have
yeah,
to work on self balancing systems that also are also have emergency response built in. God forbid it falls. So we need to have some technology built in to this exoskeleton because they're going to fall.
mm,
Would like to think they won't, but occasionally they're going to fall. So we have to have self-balancing systems that are still safe even when they fall. We have to have self-balancing systems that allow you to sit and stand, getting up and out of a restaurant, going up and down a curb, and can cross the street when the light changes at an appropriate speed, and still be able to fit into a customized van so that you can still wear it when you're driving. So there's a few things that need to improve. But I'll tell you, most of the patients that have gotten into the Wandercraft system that I've seen, they don't mind right now. They're up, they're looking you in the eye. They can have a conversation with you. It's having impact on their biological systems,
yeah.
on their pain, and when we're talking about lower level lesions, yeah, we need to find modular systems that are very lightweight. The two biggest restraints in exoskeletons right now is battery technology and material science. Because if we could find materials, and we're working on it, there are some great scientists out there working on materials that when they're moved slowly, they're pliable, but if they move fast, they're strong.
Um,
And so we're using, different nanotechnology and carbon fiber technology that will make these exoskeletons very lightweight, but still rigid and strong when they have to be. So that's part of the material science part of it. The battery science, it still needs to improve. Some of these exoskeletons will only work 4 to 6 hours. I am happy to say the exoatlet battery will last 8 hours, but you still have to swap out batteries, and so that needs to improve
Mhm.
as well. Yeah.
So where can you mentioned you're at APTA conferences? Where else can folks find you? Are you like at um, ACRM? Where? I mean, you sound like you're involved in high level and you're on the ground getting into the clinics to talk to clinicians and rehab directors. What's
Well,
your When do you
I'm
sleep,
very
I
proud
should
of our,
say?
yeah, oh, I not a lot, but that's okay. Um, my clinical team, I'm very proud of my clinical team. They are all neuro trained DPTs and they do a lot of regional events. So we have 11 of them covering the country, and they'll do regional events, and then as a company, we'll do national events. And we do mostly physical therapy events. Occasionally, we do some orthotic and prosthetic events, and occasionally we'll do some hand events for the occupational therapist for our upper extremities. We're still a startup. We're less than 3 years old, so we have a limited marketing budget. So we're careful where we spend our money. Again, keeping costs low. So we do a lot of work on, through social media, email campaigns, and continuing education programs.
Cool. And I also saw you do a lot of work in Latin America. Is that true?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So again, someone I'm very proud of is my wife,
Yeah.
Vanessa, and
Cool.
she's Bolivian. And
Oh, very cool.
after we got married, we actually said, let's start some business in South America. And I'd done some work in South America through Innovative Neurotronics, but we relocated and we live part time in Santa Cruz, Bolivia, and we started
Lovely.
we started a neurophysio clinic in Santa Cruz, Bolivia, and Bolivia is a beautiful country, but it's a third world country, and
Yeah.
they don't have access to modern treatment protocols, modern technologies, so it's kind of like our way to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And we built this clinic we're very proud of in Santa Cruz, and we don't make any money doing it. It's not why we did it. We'll make money somewhere else, but
Yeah.
we've touched a lot of lives in Santa
That's
Cruz.
cool. Does she have a
And
clinical background as well,
yeah, yeah.
or what's
No,
her? No,
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 she
no.
was marketing, and
All right.
but
Yeah.
she's the director of marketing for the
Nice.
company, and she also helps me manage the business in South America.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the United States, we're in Florida, we're in Clearwater, west of Tampa, so we go back and forth, and we have sub distributors all throughout Latin America and Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, etc.,
Very
and
cool.
trying to make a difference in South America as well. Yeah,
Good stuff. Well, yeah,
yeah,
that's rewarding. And
yeah.
a husband and wife, duo in business together. That's something to be
Exactly.
proud of. Yeah, good for
Yes,
you.
yes.
All right. Well, we if you've listened to an episode, you'll know we always wrap up with our what we call the magic wand question, right? So we're gonna
Okay,
hand you this magic wand and
okay.
ask you to redesign the stroke care pathway. Maybe we could focus here on, the aftercare aspect of it, but the oysters are all whatever you'd like to kind of come up with here.
Ooh, magic wand. One of the technologies we represent is called the Neuro 20. The Neuro 20 is a stimulation suit that we use every day on our neurological patients in Bolivia, and we represent in the United States as well. And this is a paradigm changing technology. And so, if I had a magic wand, I would create a suit that would have wearable components for to give feedback to the patient and the clinician, would have EMG and stimulation components that would control stimulation and motor responses based on intent through EMG, and would have some bracing or rigidity to it so that it would prevent a patient from buckling or falling, and to help correct gait compensations if they were walking incorrectly, and be able to do all that at an affordable price. So I would love to create some sort of Tony Stark suit, like you mentioned earlier, that provided that type of care and recovery for patients, so they could put on their suit, zip it up in the morning, and go to the gym, so to speak. And it would give them a pathway to recovery, because they're going to be their own best advocate, their own best therapist is going to be them. So
Absolutely.
they need access. Yeah.
Yep. And you couldn't said it better that, that's empowering them with those tools to take charge of their health. And everything we talked about today was talking about increasing mobility. And with that comes so many things, like exercise is the best medicine. It's a lifeline. It is the only medicine that's going to make a difference, and particularly for a stroke survivor. We've talked about many other conditions today, but it's that gateway that exercise provides to be able to, like you mentioned, Gary, get someone standing, maybe for the first time, to get level, eye to eye with a family member, or being able to have the stability to pick up a child again because they have that a little extra assist. So all those things that come after that gateway is opened are like it's just been it's been my entire career so far, turning that light bulb on to show people that just making that difference, it's so empowering. And so when that suit comes out, and when you achieve this goal of your magic wand, the Neuro 20, I'll be right there helping you, get those things out the door to get, we need a lot of Tony Stark moments. We really do. Those suits, whatever we're going to call them, whatever those, I should have wore my Tony Stark shirt today, but with the theme turning into, the power of mobility. I want to thank you for, I know it's late for you. I want to thank you for your time. We're going to put all your links in the show notes. So everyone who's listening, who doesn't have time to look, it's Neuro Rehab Recovery is your company, and that's also neurorehab.recovery.com is the website. But is there anything else you want to just say in closing? You answered the magic wand spot on. Any final words?
Well, first, I want to thank both of you for what you're doing to get the word out there, and uh, you know, I I want to thank you, Dave, because you're an inspiration yourself, and the adversity that you faced, and to be able to overcome that, and you're still on that pathway to recovery, and it's we need advocates like you to show patients, look, it is possible. You don't have to sit on the couch. You can recover, and I'm not saying you're going to recover 100%, but if you can recover 10%, 20%, 30%, that let's do that. Um, no, if I can help one patient at a time, one clinician at a time, please reach out to us, and we're more than willing to help. And uh, you know we want to do everything we can to help these people recover. Yeah.
Thank you for those words. Really appreciate it.
That was great, Gary. Well, I think we'll wrap it there, and thank you for your time. I know it's getting late for you in a different time zone here from us, but we'll let you run, and it's been a pleasure.
All
Thank
right.
you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gary.
All right. Bye-bye.